The breaking news that O.J. Simpson has died at the age of 76. In a statement, his family said he died yesterday from cancer.
Now, the Hall of Fame running back was initially known for his performance on the football field and became an even greater household name when he went on trial. You're seeing the reaction to the moment he was acquitted for the murders of his ex-wife and her friend. Let's bring in former federal prosecutor Laurie Levenson. She's a professor at Loyola Law School. And one thing I just want to put into context is, as massive as this moment was, Laurie, many of our viewers weren't alive yet. Some of us were just kids of 10 years old and weren't transfixed to the television. But walk us through why that moment, the trial itself and the verdict, just gripped the American public by the millions and tens of millions.
Right. I mean, I realized my students weren't necessarily alive, but folks, this really was one of the trials of the century. Other than the Nuremberg case or Nuremberg, everybody in the world was watching the OJ case. There were over 1,000 journalists in, quote, Camp OJ, which was the journalist camp, and you had cameras in the courtroom. And that's what transformed everything, because people thought they knew who O.J. Simpson was. He had been a Heisman Trophy winner. He had been on TV and in movies. And all of a sudden, he's charged with a double homicide. And things started out on a strange basis. Rather than having him surrender, he got in a white Bronco, and they call it the chase, but frankly, it was more like a parade. When he actually showed up in the courtroom, he's surrounded by celebrity lawyers. There are celebrities in the courtroom. There are big moments during the trial, like when he tries on the gloves, and there are the theatrics of whether they fit or not. And then there are the celebrity lawyers like Johnny Cochran, who said, you know, in his closing arguments, if the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. This case had everything. It had issues of race. It had issues of domestic violence. It had issues of whether money and celebrity bring a different type of justice. It even had the beginning of something called DNA.
Yeah. And Laurie, we just spoke with a member of the Dream Team, O.J. Simpson's defense. It was obvious that he felt like they had succeeded in securing a just verdict for their client. Others across the country are conflicted or feel very strongly that they know the right answer on all of that. As a professor of law, how do you remember that team? What do you tell your students about them?
Well, I think that the defense team did some excellent lawyering, but that doesn't really answer the question of whether people are comfortable with this verdict. I remember when the verdict came out and the street split. There were Black citizens on one side and white on the other, and people were seeing justice through different eyes. So I think what we learned from this case is that unless people see it for themselves, they're not really going to buy what we thought about the justice system. I think we also learned that even though O.J. was acquitted, there was a civil case where he was found liable, and then the payback case in Las Vegas where he was convicted on a bizarre type of kidnapping.
Speak to us more about that. And I'm very interested in how you explain this to your students now in the present day, because you are drawing a connection between the highly visible and controversial verdict and acquittal and his later legal troubles in Las Vegas as it relates to the kidnapping. How can we connect the two, even if there's the appearance of such?
I don't think that they were legally connected, but I think much of the country had thought that O.J. had gotten away with murder. So they, in part, were kind of cheering for any other jurisdiction that might go after him for another crime. And they did. And he was convicted and he did time. But they were two different cases. One was a double homicide, and the other was about trying to get his memorabilia back and how he went about doing so.
And at the end of it, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were murdered. When you teach your students about this case and all the complexities of that and the fact that their families never had justice, how do you explain that to your students, and what do you challenge them to do in their own practices?
Well, I say it's heart-wrenching, because at the end of any case, it's not like the victims have come back. And I personally know how much pain the Goldman family has gone through. Having said that, however, we have these standards of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And this is one of the few times where I actually think a jury took it very, very seriously. Maybe because they were judging O.J. Simpson, or maybe because the eyes of the world were on them. but they held up that high standard and he was acquitted. And there's been controversy about it ever since for the last 30 years.
Okay. Thank you, Laurie Levenson. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Laurie.
For more now, we're going to bring in CBS News correspondent Carter Evans. He's in our Los Angeles bureau. Carter, Anne-Marie and Errol and I have all been talking about our observations being young at this time. You were a kid in L.A. Talk to us about the climate of that part of the country as this is unfolding.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in LA, a couple of decades now. I was not here at the time. I was in college, of course. I remember exactly where I was when that verdict was read as well. But I can tell you about the importance of O.J. Simpson to Los Angeles. He won the USC Heisman Trophy. He became a sports icon. And then after that, he got into acting, right? He was into Hollywood, and you saw him in Hertz commercials. You saw him in The Naked Gun. And he was this affable guy that everybody knew. And then, of course, these accusations come. And the murders occur, in a neighborhood here in Los Angeles, a very popular neighborhood called Brentwood. And it just created a media circus around there. And then there was that televised low-speed chase, which was really just a spectacle that the whole country tuned in to watch and really shined a light here on Los Angeles. And then you've got the trial coming in 1995. And this is at a time when there are volatile race